So we know we love vintage hair, but which decade are we really emulating? Today I thought I would use some of my vintage hair magazines, all from the month of love, February, to talk about some of the similarities and differences between hairstyles of the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s. Disclaimer, this is just a tidbit. This is not an extensive comparison of the decades. If I tried to do that in one video with all of the information I have, we'd be here until... So the first thing that we should do when labeling hair by the decades is try to remember to ignore the zeros. The zeros are not the starting and stopping point for all the different styles of women's vintage hair. The style of a decade didn't turn on a dime. The clock didn't strike midnight on the morning of January 1st, 1940, and all of a sudden victory rolls were in. The open roll curl that we often refer to as a victory roll actually started popping up before the 1940s. If someone says they want a 1930s hairstyle, should it look like 1933 or 1938? Because those are very different hairstyles. That being said, let's get to it. Let's talk about the 1930s. This hairstyle comes from a magazine from February 1933. The silhouette looks pretty similar to our ideas of a 1920s hairstyle, doesn't it? The bulk of the shape is focused below the ears and the occipital bone. The top of the hairstyle is flat against the head. In the 1920s, the fashionable close-fitting cloche hat required this tight, close hair silhouette. It was right around the time of this early 1930s magazine that hats changed a little. Instead of the all-over head-hugging cloche hats, there were more tilted and asymmetric hats. Although these hats did not cover as much real estate on the head, they still formed close to the scalp. As the 1930s wore on, curls made their way up the head, and by the late 1930s, hair looks included full curls on top of the head. This gave way to the full piles of curls we all love so much from 1940s hairstyles. Speaking of 1940s hairstyles, these 1940 and 1941 February hair magazines feature hearts, of course, but note that the silhouette has really changed from the 1920s and early 1930s. These hairstyles are downright opposite of those. Hair has gone from down flat against the head and ears, almost like gravity is forcing it down, and in the 1940s it is upswept and voluminous and defying gravity with big curls. These hairstyles are early examples of how the big volume victory roll came about. I am honestly still trying to find proof of a hairstyle in the 1940s called victory rolls. I've seen lots of V for victory hairstyles with a V in the hairstyle, and I've seen rolled hairstyles, but none of them were called victory rolls. Here's one from 1943 called Soaring Puffs. I am not doubting the evidence that this hairstyle name exists somewhere. Hairstylists in the 1940s loved to give their hairstyles fun names. I'm sure it's somewhere in a 1940s hair magazine or in a newspaper article. I just haven't seen it with my own eyes. Please comment if you have visual proof of a hairstyle called victory rolls in a magazine, or if maybe you have a family member who was alive during World War II who remembers that's what people called a hairstyle that women wore. I would love to hear about it. Before we get to the 1950s, just a little side note from the opener from the Party Time hairstyle of 1941. It begins with, February is party month. Midwinter socials are in full swing, and 3 social occasions, Valentine's Day, Lincoln's birthday, and Washington's birthday, come rushing in with parties in their wake. I love the idea of a bunch of wild partiers celebrating Lincoln's birthday. Although I think there were some Victorians that actually did party hard for his birthday. Now back to the 1950s. It's 1957 now, and those immaculately curled and arranged hairstyles of the 1930s and 1940s have given way to the hairstyle of the 1950s, which allows for touch and movement. In the 1954 book, Top Secrets of Hairstyling, author and hairstylist Victor Vito writes, "To me, the test of a hairstyle lies not in how much you do to your hair, but how little." In this 1950s sweetheart coif hairstyle, the curls are brushed and styled, but there is a lightness to it. The 1950s hairstyle, especially in the middle of the decade and beyond, just looked easy and unrestrained. This freedom from prior tiny curls and immaculate waves was a long time coming. On another side note, one of the best things about living today and being into vintage is you can wear whatever you want with whatever you want. You can wear a 1930s hairstyle with a 1940s dress. You can wear a beehive with a 1950s dress. But just for historical accuracy, if that is what you are trying to accomplish, victory rolls are not a 1950s hairstyle. I've seen a few websites that have articles that claim that victory rolls are a 1950s hairstyle. This just isn't true. I'm not sure where this came from. Did someone see a girl online wearing victory rolls with a 1950s style dress and then make some assumptions? People make assumptions sometimes. You can totally wear victory rolls with your A-line 1950s dress. I imagine there is someone out there that has a photo of their great-grandma sitting on a couch in 1956 with victory rolls. That just means great-grandma found a hairstyle that she loved 15 years earlier, and she just kept going with it. That does not define it as a 1950s hairstyle. My grandmother continued to wear her bouffant that she started wearing in the 1960s through her life into the 1990s. But this does not mean her bouffant was a 1990s hairstyle. As we look at this 1949 magazine, we can see the directions hairstyles went after World War II. Less volume, easy styling, smart curling. If you're ever reading an article about historical fashion or beauty or art, always consider the source. Are they an expert in their field? Or check for their sources. We now return you to your regularly scheduled program. Have you ever heard of the no curl trend? Neither had I until I read it in this article from a 1960 beauty trade magazine. I hadn't heard or read the term no curl trend, but it is a perfect description of what 1960s hairstyles looked like. In this hairstyle called Hearts and Flowers, hairstylist Ernest Badger essentially only curled the ends of the hair sections. He describes it as, quote, "We do not use a complete crokinole curl, only a partial crokinole curl." Yes, mostly 1960s hairstyles started with a curl, with a big roller or a curling iron, but then when the final hairstyle was brushed out, most of that curl was gone, especially when you compare it to previous decades. So there you have it, a brief description of similarities and differences between hairstyles of the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe. You can also visit my website, vintagehairstyling.com, to shop and read more at the Bobby Pin blog. Thanks for watching.